Hi everyone, this is Teacher Issa Maria and welcome back to my YouTube channel. For today's video, we are going to discuss biomolecules. What are the learning objectives? Number 1, identify the major categories of biomolecules. Number 2, distinguish between the structures and functions of carbohydrates, proteins, nucleic acids, and lipids. And the last one, cite the importance of biomolecules in our life. Let us define first what is biomolecules. Biomolecule is also called as biological molecule. This is any of numerous substances that are produced by cells and living organisms. Biomolecules have a wide range of sizes and structures and perform a vast array of functions. All of our biomolecules are classified into 4 groups. We have carbohydrates, lipids, nucleic acids, and proteins. Each of these classes have different structures and functions. All living organisms require several compounds to continue to live. We call these compounds biomolecules. All of these biomolecules are organic, which means that they contain carbon. Carbon has 4 valence electrons, which means this element forms strong covalent bonds between many other elements. And carbon is the most versatile and the most predominant element of life. Biomolecules is made from linking of small subunits called monomers. So what is monomer? Monomer is the smallest functioning unit of a biomolecule. Mono means one. When there are 2 monomers together, we get a dimer. Di means 2. And once several monomers are put together, we get a polymer. Poly means many. Molecules are either inorganic compounds or organic compounds. Organic has carbon while inorganic has no carbon. Under the inorganic compounds, we have minerals, water, and gases. Under organic, we have carbohydrates, lipids, amino acids, proteins, enzymes, nucleotides, nucleic acids, and vitamins. Biomolecules are either micromolecules or macromolecules. In biology, a micromolecule refers to a molecule of relatively small size and low molecular weight as opposed to a macromolecule, which is large and with greater molecular weight. Under micromolecules, we have minerals, water, gases, sugars, amino acids, and nucleotides. And macromolecules have carbohydrates, lipids or fats, proteins, and nucleic acids. All of the major macromolecule classes are similar in that they are large polymers that are assembled from small repeating monomer subunits. What are the classification of biomolecules? As you can see, we have carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids. Let us discuss first the carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are also known as saccharides or carbs. The term carbohydrate is derived from the French term hydrate de carbone. It means a hydrate of carbon. Carbohydrates provide energy for the body. Each gram of carbohydrates provides 4 calories. The body breaks carbohydrates down into glucose, which is the primary energy source for the brain and muscles. Carbohydrates can be represented by the stoichiometric formula, which is CH2ON, where N is the number of carbons in the molecule. In other words, this is the ratio of carbon to hydrogen to oxygen. And that is 1 is to 2 is to 1. 1 for carbon, 2 for hydrogen, and 1 for oxygen. And that is for carbohydrate molecules. Living organisms use carbohydrates as accessible energy to fuel cellular reactions. Here are the functions of carbohydrates. Number 1, they are the most abundant dietary source of energy, and each gram of carbohydrates provide 4 calories. Number 2, carbohydrates, along with being the chief energy source in many animals, are instant sources of energy. Glucose is broken down by glycolysis or Krebs cycle to yield ATP. It stands for adenosine triphosphate. Number 3, stored carbohydrates act as an energy source instead of proteins. Number 4, carbohydrates are intermediates in the biosynthesis of fats and proteins. Number 5, carbohydrates aid in the regulation of nerve tissue and the energy source for the brain. Number 6, in animals, they are an important constituent of connective tissues. And the last one, carbohydrates that are rich in fiber content help to prevent constipation. Carbohydrates may be classified into the following: monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. Let us discuss monosaccharides. This is from the prefix mono, which means one. Monosaccharide is the simplest sugar and the basic subunit of a carbohydrate. These compounds are white solids at room temperature. The most common monosaccharides are glucose. This is also known as dextrose, one of a group of carbohydrates known as simple sugars. Next is fructose, or in other term, livulose. This is a sugar from fruits. The last one is galactose. This is a sugar in milk. The next classification of carbohydrates is disaccharides. Disaccharides consist of two monosaccharides that are chemically combined. The sugar we use to sweeten coffee is a disaccharide. It is also known as sucrose or table sugar. It is also called as cane sugar. This is the sugar found in sugarcane or sugar beet. Sucrose is the most abundant among naturally occurring sugars. It is the important source of dietary carbohydrates, and this is made up of glucose and fructose. Another important disaccharide is lactose or milk sugar. Lactose is made up of a sugar called galactose and glucose. Soaring of milk is due to conversion of lactose to lactic acid. When two glucose molecules are combined, maltose is formed. Maltose or malt sugar is an intermediate in the intestinal digestion of glycogen and starch and is found in germinating grains. Next is polysaccharides. Polysaccharides is also called as glycans. This is a complex carbohydrates. Polysaccharides are polymers containing numerous monosaccharide monomers. It means that polysaccharides are large molecules that are made up of many smaller units that are joined together. There are three common polysaccharides. We have starch, glycogen, and cellulose. Starch is the chief storage form of carbohydrates in plants, and this is the most important source of carbohydrate in human nutrition. A starch molecule is a polysaccharide assembled from the simple sugar glucose. Take note that plants make starch. Next is glycogen. Glycogen is a polysaccharide that is similar to starch because it is also composed of alpha glucose units. It differs from starch since glycogen shows a higher degree of branching and is a polysaccharide that is made by animals. Glycogen is the major carbohydrate storage form in animals and corresponds to starch in plants. It occurs mainly in liver, up to 6 to 8% wet weight, and muscle where it rarely exceeds 1% of wet weight. The last one is cellulose. Cellulose are the basic component of plant. People cannot digest cellulose, but when we eat rich in fiber, which is cellulose, it speeds the movement of food through the digestive tracts. These are the chemical structure of starch, glycogen, and cellulose. Let us discuss another category of biomolecules, which is proteins. Proteins are also known as polypeptides. Proteins are large, complex molecules that play many critical roles in the body. They do most of the work in cells and are required for the structure, function, and regulation of the body's tissues and organs. Proteins are polymers of amino acids. They have many functions in the body, one of which is found as structural materials in hair, nails, and connective tissues. Proteins are made up of the elements carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and sulfur. Proteins function as enzymes, pigments, and steroid hormones. Enzymes are proteins that act as biological catalysts. Egg white, fish, meat, and cheese are foods rich in proteins. They are the second most common molecules found in the human body and make up about 10% to 20% of the mass of a cell. Again, proteins serve many vital functions in the body, such as structural support, enzymes, which is the speeding up of chemical reactions. Next is transport of molecules. Next is fighting infection and many more. Amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. Of the 20 amino acids found in human protein, only 11 can be synthesized by the body, and 9 have to be supplied by the foods we eat. These 9 amino acids are also called essential amino acids. Adults only need to obtain 8 of them, such as valine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine, and tryptophan. The 9th amino acid is histidine. This is only essential for infants. Your body doesn't store amino acids, so it needs a regular daily supply of these essential building blocks. The next one is non-essential amino acids. Non-essential is a slightly misleading label because these amino acids actually fill essential roles. But since they are synthesized by your body, they are not an essential part of your diet. The non-essential amino acids are alanine, asparagine, and aspartate. Of the 11 non-essential amino acids, 8 are called conditional amino acids, such as arginine, glutamine, tyrosine, cysteine, glycine, proline, serine, and ornithine. Next is lipids. Lipids is the chief concentrated storage form of energy, forming about 3.5% of the cell content. Lipids are also found in hormones and cell membrane components. Lipids are organic substances relatively insoluble in water, but soluble in organic solvents, such as alcohol. Oily and fatty foods tend to leave stains upon contact, right? This is why we can use brown paper to detect fats. Lipids are water-insoluble molecules because they are hydrophobic or water-fearing that are composed of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. That is why all lipids repel water due to how hydrophobic they are. This means that they do not bond to water molecules. Let us discuss the functions of lipids. Aside from carbohydrates, lipids are another class of biomolecules that have the job of storing energy for later use. This feature of lipids allows our body to use them as waterproof barriers and as biological membranes. Lipids act as a chemical messenger or steroid hormone. And the last one, lipids protect the internal organs and serve as insulating materials. The common lipids are fatty acids, triglycerides, steroids, and waxes. Fatty acids are carboxylic acids or organic acid, usually with long aliphatic tails or long chains, either unsaturated or saturated. Saturated fatty acid is indicated when there is a lack of carbon-to-carbon double bonds. The saturated fatty acids have higher melting points compared to unsaturated acids of the corresponding size due to their ability to pack their molecules together, thus leading to a straight rod-like shape. And saturated fats tend to be solid at room temperature. Unsaturated fatty acid is indicated when a fatty acid has more than one double bond, and they tend to be liquid at room temperature. The most abundant of the lipids are the fats and oils. This is also called triglycerides. Fats and oils are triglycerides that come from the combinations of glycerol and 3 fatty acids. Fats are solid at room temperature and contain saturated fatty acids. Take note that all saturated hydrocarbons contain single bonds and are produced only by animals. Oils are liquid at room temperature and contain unsaturated fatty acids. Take note that all unsaturated hydrocarbons contain one or more double bonds and are produced by plants. Steroids are another class of lipids whose molecules are composed of fused rings of atoms. Steroids are vital as hormones, which are chemical signals used in the body. The most important steroid is cholesterol, but excessive levels of cholesterol in the blood can lead to deposits in the arteries of the heart. Waxes. Waxes are lipids that come from the combinations of a long-chain alcohol and a fatty acid. Waxes are found almost everywhere. Fruits and leaves of many plants possess waxy coatings that can safeguard them from small predators and dehydration. Fur of a few animals and the feathers of birds possess same coatings, serving as water repellents. Carnauba wax is known for its water resistance and toughness. Here are some examples of waxes. Number 1, beeswax. This is the secretion of abdominal glands of worker honeybees. Next is lanolin or wool fat. This is the secretion of cutaneous glands and obtained from the wool of sheep. The third one, sebum. This is the secretion of sebaceous glands of skin. The fourth one is cerumen. This is a soft and brownish waxy secretion of the glands in the external auditory canal. This is also called as earwax. The fifth one is plant wax. This is a coating formed on the plant organs to prevent transpiration. The last one is paraffin wax. This is a translucent waxy substance obtained from petroleum. The last major category of biomolecules is nucleic acid. Nucleic acids are the genetic material of the cell and are composed of recurring monomeric units called nucleotides. Nucleic acids are biomolecules that contain the blueprints for making proteins. Nucleic acids also transmit genetic information to the next generation. Nucleic acids are molecules that code for hereditary traits by controlling the production of protein. Like proteins, nucleic acids are long chains of polymers consisting of simpler units or monomers. We all know that nucleic acids are the genetic material of the cell and are composed of recurring monomeric units called nucleotides. Each nucleotide is composed of 3 principal components. What are those? The first one is 5-carbon pentose sugar, which is the pentagon in the diagram. Next is phosphate group, the circle one. The last one is nitrogenous base, the rectangle one. There are 2 kinds of nucleic acids, such as DNA or deoxyribonucleic acid and RNA or ribonucleic acid. DNA, found mainly in the cell nuclei, contains the genetic information that codes for the sequences of amino acids in proteins. RNA is found in many places in the cell and carries out the synthesis of proteins. The monomers of nucleic acids are nucleotides. They are made up of 3 parts. Again, we have a 5-carbon sugar, which is pentose, a phosphate group, and a ring-shaped base containing nitrogen or the nitrogenous base. Nucleic acids contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and phosphorus. As you can see, nucleotides is a monomer. But if there are a long chains of nucleotides, it will form nucleic acid, and that is polymer. We all know that nucleic acid can be DNA or RNA. And that would be all. I hope you learned something about the topic, and thank you so much for watching. Keep safe.